Hi, my name is David Adam and I own Adam Archery. Today I would like to discuss the design of this riser and the process that we went through to get here. These things don't tend to happen, automatically. We didn't just make this up. There's actually a whole process and theory behind this design. And I've been a product designer for 30 years. So I've had a lot of experience. I've used a lot of incredible tools, and I wanted to apply all these tools into this design. I've had access to 3D scanners, 3D printers, CAD software, sketching tools, clay, whatever you can think of that I've, the experience I've built up and that I've culminated into the design of this riser. I'm very passionate about archery. I'm very passionate about design. So I wanted to combine these two passions into this beautiful riser. And so now I would like to take you on this journey on how we got here and enjoy. The first step would be to do some market research, and I would look at what's out there. I would purchase a few items and I would analyze them. For example, this is a Black Widow bow handle, and I like the grip, so it's a good place to start. And then these are some of the ILF risers I've purchased, and I'm not saying that I like these, but it is what's out there, and I just feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. The next step would be to 3D scan these items and analyze where the ILF components are in relationship to the grip. And then I would model this in CAD and create an underlay. And that underlay I would then use for creating hand sketches and generating ideas. So let's do some 3D scanning. So this is kind of how we do it. Gonna have the whole thing set up. We got some markers on it. And then we just walk around the product and get the data into the computer. I can kind of see my screen while I'm doing it. So we got the scan data into the CAD software, and I took the liberty of already determining where the critical components are. For instance, this is the ILF bolt holding the limb in place. This is the socket where the limb sits into, and all this in relationship to the handle. So I started by determining the center part of the handle where the crease of your hand sits, and then this is pretty much symmetrical top and bottom. So the next step I want to do is I want to model this ILF system, these bolts, this boot, and then position them in an assembly like this so that I can use it as an underlay to kind of start my design process. And then I can also size it based on this. So this is the ILF system. I took the liberty of modeling the limbs after I 3D scanned those two. But you can kind of see the screw holding the limb in place, the boot that the limb sits in, and that's with the limb installed. So now I'm going to use this to create my template. So this is the 3D template. I'm using the scan data as reference, and I also brought in the handle that I scanned that I liked. So if I hide the scan data, you can kind of see this is a good start for my underlay. You have the sketch as reference, the ILF system is in place, and the grip's exactly kind of where I want it. And like I said, this is a guide. I don't have to follow this to the T, but it's a good starting point to end up with something that is functional. I always think that the design is always better when you can think on paper. So we have this sketch and we can start, we have this underlay and we can kind of, start thinking Like you have to bridge these, and then this will become probably a handle. You know, and then we have something back here to kind of fill this in. Has to go back to the handle. This seems a little big. You know, and we can just kind of start detailing things out. What this could look like. And it helps me to think on paper. And obviously, I did a lot of sketching beforehand, and sometimes crazy ideas come up. Like, you know, I had the idea of, oh, maybe I'll put a torsion spring in there, and this whole limb cantilevers, and anyway, that's all crazy thinking. But you know, you can kind of see, you know, the whole kind of process of, you know, different ideas. Like what I wanted to do is basically take all the bulk out of the current design and stick through pure form. And, you know, whatever's there is what's needed, and everything else gets cut away. So part of the process is 3D printing as I'm designing. So this is a first 3D print of the second concept. This is the 3D print of the third concept. Kind of see how the lines flow and how this all looks and feels. This is the second 3D print of the fourth concept. You know, just playing around with different profiles to lighten the material and see what it looks and feels like. Also use this 3D printed wood to kind of mimic the wood feel, and it feels good. It's interesting that as I progressed in the design, and this is like months further, you know, I started straightening all the lines. You know, I started like, ooh, look at this line, you know, because a lot of the stuff that I was doing, it looked like what everybody else was doing. So I wanted to do something that is unique and stands out in the marketplace. And then when I look back at these sketches, you know, I kept doing very curvy, but then I started doing these straight line stuff, and I was like, huh, this is kind of, you know, this kind of look starts to look like where I ended up. I just thought that was interesting.